We're going to be covering chapter 4, 5, and 6 in the first hour, and then we'll take a little break for a few minutes, and then we'll be covering chapter 7. And chapter 7 really takes several days to go through because it's where all the charts and all the tools are. And so, really, the first part is to prepare us to enter into that um, most holy place, to prepare us to enter into that tabernacle and do what we started to do, which is to measure and observe at the tabernacle according to the instructions given to the last generation by Jesus in Revelation 11:1. So, all this background work will pay off, all this, that we've done beforehand, because it'll help us understand everything so much more when we're actually going to do it. So, part of that background work, so we've already looked at the covenant and what a covenant is, and what the specific covenant with between God and man, and the Lord's response when man broke the covenant, and the response to redeem man and crush the head of the serpent in the first prophecy. And so now we're getting ready. When we saw in Revelation how each generation is instructed to watch and to pray, and how that's done through watching the prophets and looking for the signs of our time. So in chapter 4, we we begin talking about we know about they were instructed by Jesus to measure the temple, and we know that the pattern is located in the Holy Scriptures and in the Covenant Code section of the Holy Scriptures. And we know that the description of that pattern begins in chapter 25 of the book of Exodus when Moses first ascends the mount. But it's not clear how we're supposed to go about measuring the temple. It says measure the temple, the people therein, etc. Well, there's no instruction there that's clear to say, well, how do you do that? Well, luckily, Jesus set up enough uh, pointed to Ezekiel all throughout that, because Ezekiel was also instructed to measure the temple. And so if we look towards Ezekiel, we can find, two things. One is how we're supposed to do that, and two, what is the intent of doing that? Why are we supposed to do that? Because there's a great purpose for us to. Why are we supposed to measure this tabernacle? And it's all, covenant related. So we go through, and first of all, we'll do a comparison of the book of Ezekiel with the book of Revelation, because these prophetic books, these ecclesiastic books, apostolistic books, are all set with the same structures. It's a covenant structure. And if you compare Ezekiel with the Revelation, you have like the throne vision, chapter 1, Revelation is chapter 4. The book being opened, chapter 2 and 3 versus chapter 5 in Revelation. The four plagues, chapter 5. So as we go through this, we can see that the Revelation is based on that same template that was given to the Son of Man, to Ezekiel. And it helps us to understand, because is part of that, um, Ezekiel was supposed to digest the book, just like we're supposed to, and he's supposed to measure the tabernacle. So the eating of the book is chapter 2 of Ezekiel, chapter 10 in the book of Revelation. So the first point is to compare, to show that's our template. So they're purposed, so why to measure the temple? What can we expect as a result of obeying this instruction? Like I said, we looked at the beginning of this covenant is all to do with Genesis 3:15. I will put my enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. He shall crush thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So it's looking for that promise, looking for the fulfillment of that promise. That's what this whole covenant is about. So a prophecy speaks twice. It speaks once to that generation that is proclaimed in. So when the Lord made that prophecy, it spoke to Adam and Eve. They were the only two people in the world at that time. But it also speaks to the generation, the later generation, that sees the fulfillment. And that later generation is the one to proclaim the fulfillment. And so part of, why Ezekiel's to measure something is to proclaim it, proclaim something being done. Remember the time that Ezekiel is measuring the temple, they're in Babylon with the temple destroyed. And he shows them the first time he measured the temple, why the Lord left the temple, why he abandoned it, let it be destroyed. The second time he measured it to show his return to it in all of his glory, and that it'll be more glorious than the first temple. It'll be the temple in heaven. And so he's giving them the second time hope for something that's not there, you know. And, here's how you got into captivity. Here's something that, that doesn't exist, but I'm showing you, I'm prophesizing this. So you can only measure something that really exists. So anyway, um, so I'll just skip ahead a little bit here to the next little chart. So these these um these chapters are also structured in a certain way where they're all like all of them are they kind of follow the same sort of a formal covenant. It's like a grievance. It's like it's called in Hebrew, it's called a rib or a rib, and it means that the Lord has something against you, and he's going to proclaim this. And the structure goes like this. If we take, for example, um, Hosea, um, hear the word of the Lord, you children of Israel, for the Lord hath a controversy. Literally in the Hebrew, it's a rib with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, no mercy, no knowledge of God in the land. So it starts off with a preamble, and then there's a little historic prologue, then the ethical stipulations, then the sanctions or penalties, and then hopefully a succession plan to move ahead. So that's the way that they're all structured. That's the way these Ezekiel and Daniel and all those things are all structured as well. And it's identical to every book that houses prophecy, including Genesis. They have that same preamble, ethical stipulations, sanctions, penalties, succession plan. So this is just more of a structure thing. But so the connection between Ezekiel and the seventh generation of Revelation cannot be made clearer than it has through the Lord Jesus Christ. We've already mentioned many of these connections, but they're worth repeating here to ensure they're not missed. When his disciples asked him when all would be fulfilled at his return, Jesus did not rebuke them, but said, but of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. In the very next sentence, he continued, take ye heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is. For the Son of Man, which is the name given to Ezekiel, is a man taken a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house come back, at evening or midnight or cockcrowing or in the morning. Lest suddenly he come and find you sleeping. And what I say unto one, I say unto all, watch. So back in the ancient times, I could be doing my work out in the field and I could just be focused totally on my work that I was given. But if I heard a trumpet sound or I saw a flag waving for the watchman and stopped my work, I watched the watchman and see, well, how serious is this? Oh, is he giving me all clear, go back to work? Or no, this is serious. Can't head in from the field. We're being attacked or whatever. So I could focus on my work so long as I watch the watchman. And and our watchmen to watch are the prophets, and particularly the book of Revelation. So when God had made Ezekiel his prophet, he said, Son of man, I make thee a watchman to the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word of my mouth and give them warning from me. In the book of Revelation starts off with Revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come, to every generation from that day to the time of his return. When he talked to Ezekiel, he says, Son of man, hear what I have to say. Don't be like that rebellious house. Open thy mouth and eat what I give you. And I looked and behold, and his hand sent me a scroll, a book um, written therein and thereout. He spread it for me, so he opened it up. He said, Son of man, eat that thou finds, eat this roll. And then after you digested it, go speak unto the house of Israel. So the purpose of digesting that scroll, so that he could speak for the Lord to the house of Israel. Seventh generation is the same thing. There's an angel. Take the book of the hand of the angel. I went to the angel and said to him, "Give me that little book," and which was open in his hand. He said to me, "Take it, eat it up." I took the little book of the angel's hand. It was sweet as honey. Um, and he said to me, "Thou must prophesy again before many people, nations, tongues." It's the exact same thing. Now that once you've digested this, your job is to go speak as a watchman to the children of Israel. So the last generation to evangelize the world prior to his return is specifically instructed to eat or fully digest the open book and then to rise and measure the temple of God and the altar of them the worship therein. So this directs us to the covenant code or the book of the covenant that contains the worship pattern. You're to measure it, assess the extent, value, etc., and then all of it, then then to declare it. And we're going to look at everything in there. The holy days, the holy ways, they're all prophetic rehearsals of its fulfillment. So the call to measure the temple was first given to Ezekiel. He had witnessed the departure of the Lord from the temple. Now in vision, he's given to observe it. We're not to guess uh, uh, as to the intent the Lord is calling the seventh generation to measure. But why is he calling us to measure the temple? You only have to observe the calling of Ezekiel when he's measuring to see it. It's found in chapter 40. In the 5th and 25th year of our captivity, in the beginning of that year, in the 10th day of the month, can't be more precise, 14th year after the city was smitten, in the self same day, the hand of the Lord was upon me and brought me there. And the vision of God brought me into the land of Israel and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was as a frame of the city, so you can see everything. And he brought me hither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flax in his hand, and a measuring reed, and he stood at the gate. So this man had the measuring reed. But notice that what the man said to him. He said, "Son of man, behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thine heart upon all that I show thee, for to the intent that I might show them unto thee art thou I brought thou hither. Declare all that thou seest to the house of Israel." In other words, I brought you here for this very intention, to show you these measurements so you could show them to the house of Israel. So the intent of the Lord is first to show these to Ezekiel so that he can proclaim them to the people. Next, we observe that every detail of the tabernacle is measured and observed. Nothing is overlooked. In this observance, the intent is the same given to the seventh generation, to fully digest the pattern, then to evangelize the world in its last call. We can also observe what to expect as we follow his instructions. In measuring the temple, we observe in Ezekiel 43 what happens as Ezekiel is in the midst of completing the instructions he's measured. So he's already completed measuring the inner sanctuary at this point. We're in chapter 43. And after he finishes the holy place and the most holy place, he's about to come out to the courtyard, towards the gate. Afterwards, he brought me to the gate, even to the gate that looks towards the east. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel came from the way of the east, and his voice was like the noise of many waters, and the earth shined in his glory. Think of the angel in Revelation 18:1. So he's out measuring. While he's measuring, the glory of the Lord comes from the east, and the glory filled the place. And it was according to the appearance of the vision which I saw, even according to the vision which I saw when I came to destroy the city. So it's the same um, glorious Lord that was leaving, he's seeing return. Then the visions were like the visions I saw by the river Cherith, and I fell upon my face. And the glory of the Lord came into the house. So now it comes right through that eastern gate, by the way of the gate, whose prospect is towards east. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court, which is right by that gate there. And behold, the glory of the Lord filled the house. So while he's in the middle of doing his measurements, the glory of the Lord comes and fills that house. He's still the only one in that house. He's the only one there measuring this. He's not even finished yet. He's only finished. He hasn't measured the altar, and he hasn't measured the brazen laver. He's just measured the inside. But while he's measuring still, this happens. And while he's measuring, um, he's told this. After these things, I saw another angel, just like in Revelation 18:1, come down from heaven, having great power. And the earth, oh, sorry, this is Revelation 18:1. And the earth was enlightened with his glory, and he cried mightily, etc. We've gone through Revelation 18 before. Um, this is Ellen White's The Angel of Revelation 18. The prophecies in the 18th Revelation will soon be fulfilled. During the proclamation of the third angel's message, another angel is to come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth is to be lightened with his glory. The Spirit of the Lord will so gloriously bless consecrated human instruments, people that have been preparing for this, that men, women, and children will open their lips in praise and thanksgiving, filling the earth with the knowledge of God and his unsurpassed glory as the waters cover the sea. Those who have held the beginning of their confidence firm until the end will wide awake during the time that the third angel's message is proclaimed with great power, which is through that Revelation 18:1. Message prepares for translation. Amid the confusing cries, "Lo, here is Christ! Lo, there is Christ!" will be born a special testimony, a special message of truth appropriate for this time, which message is to be received, believed, and acted upon. It is the truth, not fanciful ideas, that is effectuous. The eternal truth of the word will stand forth free from all seductive errors, spiritualism interpretations, free from all fanciful drawn, alluring pictures. Falsehoods will be urged upon the attention of God's people, but the truth is to stand clothed in its beautiful, pure garments. The word, precious in its holy, uplifting influence, is not to be degraded to a level with common, ordinary matters. It will always remain uncontaminated by the fallacies by which Satan seeks to deceive, if possible, even the elect. So, see what happens after the glory of the Lord filled the house. So, Ezekiel is measuring, the house has been filled with the glory, and then he says, I heard him speaking unto me out of the house. And the man stood by me, and he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne, remember that's the sanctuary is already measured on the inside, and the place of the soles of my feet, which is where they're standing right now, where I dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, and my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places, in their setting of the threshold of by my threshold, their post by my post, and the wall between me and them. They have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in my anger. So that's what's done in the past. But now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. Thou, son of man, show the house to the house. Isn't that beautiful? Show the house of the Lord to the house of Israel. In other words, now he's still got measurements to complete here, but he's saying you're doing this so that so you can show the house, show the beauty that you find here to all of the people, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern. And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, show them the form of the house, the fashion of the house, the goings out thereof, the comings in thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and the laws thereof, and write them in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and to do them. This is the law of the house. Upon the top of the mountain, and the whole limit thereof, round about shall be the most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. So everything that I've said from the beginning, every the Ten Commandments, the laws of the covenant, they're all to be proclaimed and shown in their beauty. Don't back down at all, because that is the law of the house of the Lord. And show that to people and let people say, I want to be part of that house. I maybe I veered off this way, I veered left, I veered right. I didn't, as a church, I fought against keeping the Sabbath, right? Whatever. But I'm ashamed of that now. I see the glory, the beauty of this house, and I want to be part of that house. And it's the last call, and I believe it's the last call. And so now these little squabbles, these insignificant arguments, they don't matter anymore. You're going to see for the last time the glory of this pattern before it's completely fulfilled at the return of Christ. Because once once he's seen in his glory, prophecy is no longer. It's now fulfillment. It's not by prophecy, it's by sight. Not by faith, it's by sight. So this is, show the people the beauty of all this. So there's a reason why we're to rise and measure the tabernacle. And as we begin measuring and doing this, we can expect to observe evidence of the truth of his word and the evidence of his soon return as an open book through the observations of the Lord has reserved for the declaration of his end time generation. We can expect, as we're going through and measuring, so if it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, that somewhere along the line, that Revelation 18 angel is going to come along and assist us and fill the glory of the earth with that message and take that message around the globe. That's when I read, Ezekiel and I read and you compare them. That's exactly when that Lord filled the house and Ezekiel. Remember that was chapter 43. Ezekiel goes on for another 3 chapters of showing measurements and showing resurrection. So he came along as an aid to Ezekiel to take that message to the house. He didn't just say, I brought you here to show you this. I'm bringing you here as the forerunner to show you this so that you can show, the house. So anyway, so our expectations for chapter 4 was compared to Ezekiel. We have a very, we've been pointed to Ezekiel, the Son of Man, and so we look to him and we say, well, what can our expectations be measured in this tabernacle? Now, chapter 5 and 6 are about observing the mercy seat. Now, why the mercy seat? Because the very first thing we're given in the pattern, as we look at chapter 25 and in Exodus, is the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat, which are two separate. They're always together, but they're counted as two separate pieces of furniture of the seven.